In 1939 and 1940, at the Art Center School in Los Angeles, an amazing photographic technique was developed. This technique was a system used to determine the optimal film exposure and development for a photograph. It was termed the zone system, and it was formulated by Fred Archer and Ansel Adams, two of the world's greatest photographers. At the heart of the process is a form of visualization, where a photographer looks at a scene or subject and identifies how he wants sections of the final image to look in terms of tone and texture. Related to that is an accurate description or definition of these textures, tones, or zones. Archer and Adams prescribed 11 distinct textures or zones, each being one f-stop apart. In the book entitled The Negative by Ansel Adams, these zones were established as such. First, the four low zones. Zone 0, which was total black. Zone 1, which was black in print with slight tonality but no texture. Zone 2, which was black with slight detail. And Zone 3, dark materials with adequate detail. Second were the three midtones. Zone 4, which included dark foliage, stone, landscape, and normal shadow. Zone 5, which was technical middle gray and included the north sky, dark skin, gray stone, and average weathered wood. And Zone 6, which included average Caucasian skin, light stone, and shadows on sunlit snow. Finally were the four high zones. Zone 7, which was very light skin and light gray objects. Zone 8, which included whites with textures, textured snow, and highlights on Caucasian skin. Zone 9, white without texture approaching pure white, and Zone 10, pure white. In addition, Adams stated equivalent exposure values for these zones. They were stated in terms of f-stops and shutter speed. Zone 0 was equal to an f-stop of f22 at a shutter speed at 1/125. Zone 1 was an f-stop at 22 at a shutter speed of 1/60. Zone 2 was f22 at a shutter speed at 1/30. Zone 3 was an f-stop of 16 at a shutter speed 1/30. Zone 4 was equal to an f-stop of 11 at a shutter speed at 1/30. Zone 5 was an f-stop of 8 at a shutter speed of 1/30. Zone 6 was an f-stop of 5.6 at a shutter speed of 1/30. Zone 7, an f-stop at 4 at a shutter speed of 1/30. Zone 8, an f-stop also at 4 at a shutter speed of 1/15. Zone 9, an f-stop of 4 at a shutter speed of 1/8. And Zone 10, an f-stop of 4 at a shutter speed of 1/4. With these zones in mind, the photographer would go through these steps in order to achieve the optimal exposure levels. First, he would select the areas of a scene that he wants to highlight. Then he would assess the zone or zones he'd want those areas to fit in. Third, he would record the f-stop of these areas. And then fourth, and finally, adjust the exposure in order to have these areas fit the desired zones. In practice, this is how it would work. Let's take this scene before us, and let's make a decision to focus on the dark-skinned woman. And let's say the f-stop and shutter speed for the dark-skinned woman was equal to f4 at 1:30. That would place her technically in zone 7, which is not where we would want her texture or tone to be. We would want her to be in the prescribed zone of Zone 5. Zone 5 is equivalent to an f-stop of f8 at 1/30. So what we would do is with the camera on the woman, we would change the f-stop from f4 to f8. Basically increase it by 2 f-stops. This would give the dark-skinned woman the appropriate texture or tone. There may be times, however, when we want to, rather than focus on one area, we might want to focus on 3 areas. So in this example, let's say we wanted to have detail for the woman, the trees, and the vehicle. What we would do is go through the same process for the 3 areas. However, at the end of taking the photographs, we would combine all photographs together at their different f-stops. For an HDR photograph, that can easily be done in Photoshop. We would basically bring up all 3 photographs at the different f-stops. Then we would select the Merge to HDR Pro function. That would digitally combine all 3 photographs at the different f-stops and give us the detail we want for the 3 areas. So in a nutshell, this is a zone system, and this is how it's used to ensure the proper exposure of subjects and areas within a photograph.